to release the state's startup ranking 2021. First of all, I'd like to compliment the entire startup team for taking up the issue of 2021 rankings well in time. Traditionally, I've seen most awards, and particularly due to Corona, most assessments, awards, recognitions have got badly delayed. The calendars have got badly messed up because of COVID in the last 2 years. I'm glad that your team has completed this exercise for 21 well in time. And there's a added flavor to something which is on time, something which is completed or announced well in time. The other day I was giving a set of awards for people for export from 17-18 and 18-19. In 22 you are recognizing somebody for a performance 4 years ago. It means nothing. I think by that time the world has moved on. You will end up finding a situation where you are giving an award to somebody for his work in 17-18, but he may be a bankrupt company today. So I think it's important that work is done on time. I would recommend if some of my colleagues could take this message to every other recognition or award that we are giving in any other sector, that we should try and bring it up to date. And all the export promotion councils also be advised accordingly. But good to see that we are assembled here today with a lot of new ideas, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of new initiatives, some of which were presented to us by the earlier speakers. I was just asking Shruti ji, how do you differentiate a startup and a regular entrepreneur who may be starting a normal business? And I think that's something which needs to be recognized more widely by the people, by youngsters, by policymakers. And I think the differentiation is all about innovations. Differentiation is about how we are able to come up with a better way of doing something which has traditionally been happening in a regular fashion. And I think it's that better way, the newness to that idea, which makes it a startup idea. Technology is often an enabler, but I don't think that's a compulsion. That's not necessarily an ingredient of being a startup. Probably we may find that a very large number of startups would be engaging with technology, considering that can help make things easier. But I would think this new mentorship program, and I compliment you, Manoj ji, for your efforts, for the active interest you took, and the entire Startup Advisory Council for not only your association, but the time you are investing, the effort you are putting in, and the enthusiasm that you are all demonstrating. So big thank you to you and your entire team. And I'm sure this new mentorship program, the MART, will help us, those with ideas going up the value chain or getting support from whichever various initiatives are available either at the center or the states, help them in fructifying their ideas or kind of cook the rice or पकाने के लिए, idea को पकाने के लिए आप मदद कर सकते हैं. But also I think if you can promote what is startup all about through the mentorship program, which would mean actually getting down to engaging with students at an early stage. I don't know now what is that early stage. Other day we were recognizing some children as startups, if you recall. And there were some 12-year-olds who had come up with some brilliant ideas. So I really don't know what the right place would be, but I would think 8th or 9th standard in school would possibly be a nice age at which if we were to start seeding the thoughts of entrepreneurship and ideation in the young boys and girls, And I don't know whether we can, again, behave like a startup, use technology, create online modules, and create a pyramidal structure by which we can reach out to children even in the remoter parts of India, in villages, in small towns, use online technologies to engage with them. If it's possible to do a two-way engagement, even better. That would be more fruitful. But I think we must seriously see how we can get them all to understand that there's a whole wide world out there where opportunities await you. For example, the other day, and I think I probably mentioned it at some engagement, but at the cost of repetition, because I'm having all the attention of the states here. In one of my engagements in Pune, I was to address the convocation of Bharatiya Vidyapeeth. And just before I could board my car to drive up to there, 3 young children met me. They were all students of MIT probably. MIT as in the MIT campus in Pune. I don't think they look to be some, very upper class or very city-bred young boys and girls. I think they look to be pretty much small-town children. And they literally, my car is standing here and we are talking just before I can get into the car. And they were explaining their idea. And why I'm sharing this with you is that probably sometimes the case study methodology may be a good way to mentor the future startups of the country. Their idea was as simple as recognizing that on the highways in India, cars, trucks, buses often do not go down to the low beam. They continue to give the glare of the high beam, which blinds the cars coming on the other side and leads to a large number of accidents. I mean, this is their problem statement. I think this is a problem statement all of us in our life, government officials or from the private sector. We all are aware of this problem. Probably all of us would have somebody or the other who's been a victim of this problem. Some accident, some near and dear one, some friend, colleague who met with an accident because a car coming from the other side just banged into them because of the blinding nature of a high beam. Now these kids have come up with a solution, a very elementary idea. I don't know whether by sharing that I am causing them any harm, but I do know that they've applied for a patent. So please make sure they get their patent quickly and nobody else steals the idea from them. But it was a very logical, simple problem statement. They've come up with a very, very simple solution. And to my mind, and I've suggested that we should connect them with the Ministry of Road Transport also. It's on my comments on that paper. A very, very simple day-to-day occurrence. A simple solution to resolve that. In terms of cost, I don't think that solution would add any significant cost. And they're talking of just a timer which is connected to the high beam and which sees how long the high beam is on and either gives an alarm, or if the guy is still not yielding, maybe at the second stage give a louder alarm. Of course, there's another added advantage. He'll stay awake if these alarms keep popping up. And then probably even automatically turn down the high beam to a low beam. Just like we have airbags for safety or seat belts for safety, I think this is also a very rudimentary solution to a problem well recognized, coming up from young boys who are yet in college. As they say, there may be a million problems, but there'll surely be a billion solutions for all these problems. It's just that we need to jog the young person's mind a little bit, to see what's happening, to see the problem statements in front of him. I mean, for that matter, a problem statement for event managers would be a simple thing like the cameraman and the video guys. I'm surprised why event managers don't understand that you'll either have to give a proper place to the cameraman. If, of course, hotels or convention centers were better designed, the cameraman would have gone down 3 or 4 feet, or the video persons would have gone 3 or 4 feet up, either of the two. And you would have resolved a problem every program we go to. We are struggling between them screaming or these persons unyielding. Please don't mind anybody, नहीं तो मेरे को media blackout हो जाएगा. But these are the simple day-to-day problems that we all face. In our office, we had a simple problem. Of course, they didn't need a startup or a technology-based solution. But for every meeting, we were serving some nice dry fruits, some nice namkeen, sometimes often a whole plate beautifully made out of a cake and lots of goodies. And 20, 30 people being served that, or even in a smaller meeting, all of us being served that. I'm sitting in 12, 13 meetings in a row, so every time I'm getting a fresh plate coming in. I was wondering, ये सब जाता क्या है? Because nobody was touching anything in that. अच्छा किसने हाथ मार के थोड़ा ड्राई फ्रूट ले भी लिया तो अब वो झूठा भी हो गया. I was wondering, I hope they are not recycling it and bringing it back to us. If they are not recycling it, look at the waste that is causing. And there was a simple solution. We moved to packaged goods, so that if you open it, then only it gets consumed. Otherwise, it truly can be recycled. I think a similar problem exists with water bottles. We can't recycle a bottle in which somebody may have had maybe this bottle here is a 750 ml bottle in which probably 40, 50 ml is consumed. Now what happens to this bottle, God alone knows. I don't know. So should we be having such big bottles or should we be looking at smaller bottles? I don't know. These are elementary things that we don't somehow seem to open our mind. Now these are not startup ideas. But somebody who wants to start up a new event management company and goes to an organizer and says, I'll save you so much money if you give me the assignment. I'll also make your event a sustainable event and maybe reduce so much carbon footprint on your event, so much waste of water. I'll reuse whatever is reusable. I don't know. I think he may end up getting more business than the other event managers. I'm just sharing this with all of you because this message has to go to our youth. That the world is waiting for your mind to open up, for you to look at what's happening around you and come up with ideas, with solutions, suggestions. And then very often those ideas can become entrepreneurial opportunities. And those opportunities will then make you a unicorn one day. Just like we have today over 100 unicorns in India. As Anuragji mentioned, in a short period of 6 years, we have the world's third largest startup ecosystem, with Prime Minister Modi leading right from the front in various initiatives to promote and support the startup ecosystem. And with this continuous engagement, if I was to just go to him and say, I have a program of startups, I have never seen him say no. Anything for the startup ecosystem. And it's for all of us to see how we can really do much better. I don't know if this year we can use as the next 12 months, we can use as a period where we'll truly engage with the states, our advisory council, officials, have an extensive outreach to completely transform this ecosystem so that next year's rankings, I can request the Honorable Prime Minister to come and recognize the states who do well. And really let's make it a competition where we actually start hand-holding everybody also. I had a few suggestions with your permission. I hope you don't take it amiss, Shruti ji. But for example, I was seeing these states. I saw there are 11 states up to the leaders ranking. And there are 6 who are aspiring or emerging startup ecosystem. And there are 3 who have not participated. I think we must, at the official level, get them to participate. I don't see any reason why they should not be participating in this. But if the 11 states at the top can be joined or let's say aligned with the bottom 9, and what I would suggest is neighboring states or based on the size of the state. So if you try and align, let's say, Uttar Pradesh with a small state like maybe Chhattisgarh, maybe a pretty, or Delhi, it'll be chalk and cheese, right? But if you do align Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, for example, should they need to be aligned? Yes. If we were to align Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, I'm sure they would work in synergy. For all you know, Madhya Pradesh can give 4 or 5 ideas to Gujarat also, which Gujarat could use. And who knows, things are evolving. I was just told Madhya Pradesh has taken this very seriously and they've come up with a lot of initiatives. One of the persons who was awarded, I think the Gujarat gentleman, was suggesting that, sir, I am only the boss, so I am getting the award. It's actually the team. Gentlemen, it's always the boss who has to lead from the front. If the boss doesn't empower, the team can't do their job. And that's what I think empowers all of us in the government of India. You from Gujarat should know that better than me because you've had the privilege of having Mr. Modi for 12 years. I've only had the privilege of having him for 8 years as directly as a boss, of course, much, much longer overall. But truly, it's the leader who inspires. So I do think you do deserve that award and you need not be humble about it. And I'm sure your team also will be equally delighted when you as a part of that team gets recognition. And then those leaders from all over the states, we could actually get them to have a cup of tea with the Prime Minister at his residence. Should we see significant improvement or upscaling of all the various ecosystems? Similarly, can we have the smaller states also engage with each other? So maybe a Goa working closely with Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Diu Daman, which could be considered as pretty aligned. Their problem statements would be pretty similar. Both have a coastline, they would both have a fishing ecosystem. Fisheries is one area, of course, after having fought so much for the fisheries sector at WTO, I'm almost feeling so aligned to the fisheries sector now that in every engagement somehow fisheries comes to my mind. But I see that as one of the biggest opportunities that is just waiting to be grabbed. If we can have some new ideas coming around how we can bring technology to our fishermen. I mean, I've often given this example. The young boys and girls here may not have seen it, but many in our age group, and you certainly remember the movie Bobby, right? Or haven't you seen it? You have. I mean, it was a simple story weaved around a fisherman village where the fishermen are paranoid that the big companies will come in with their large fishing vessels and take away the fish and we'll be left high and dry. That story may be 40 or 50 years old, but is relevant even today. Sad part is from that village, the problem has become a global problem today. Across the globe, we are running out of fish stock because these large companies and the large fishing vessels and fleets have overfished. There's been a lot of illegal and unregulated fishing, and we finally managed to, at the WTO, come up with a document with a protocol which has been accepted by all the countries where this illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing is going to be taken to task. Finally, after 2 decades or more of negotiations, and here also, by and large, people at the WTO had given up, that there doesn't seem to be any consensus, we'll get nothing. No outcome of this WTO. When India raised the issue that why don't we try and build consensus, listen to our voice, listen to the voice of the developing world, understand our position, where we come from, and then we can certainly find solutions. And that's exactly what happened. in every area. The voice of the developing world, led by India under Prime Minister Modi's guidance. I used to be in touch with him. He used to continue to motivate our team. He had full trust in the team, which really empowers you, gives you confidence to go forward. Again, a lesson of leadership, sir. And lo and behold, literally, the developing world's agenda took center stage, and we had one of the most successful WTO multilateral meetings. In a way, protecting the small fishermen from this illegal and unregulated, unreported large fishing companies which would come into our waters and overfish and take away our fishermen's wealth. But that's the larger picture. Now we have to see what we can do with our fishermen without having these big companies take over the fishing business also. Can we create farmers, small cooperatives or fishermen organizations? Yes, we can. That will need some leadership which can emerge from amongst the children of the fishermen, many of whom would be quite educated, I assume, given the higher rates of literacy. Particularly in our coastal states, the literacy rates are much higher. Can some of the startups come up with smarter designs, smarter way of fishing, smarter nets, the nets that are used for fishing? Can we have some designs where the fishing trawlers or the larger barges or boats could have some cold storage within the barge so their fish stock lasts longer? Can you look at safety systems? Can we look at GPS or GIS systems being more prominently used by our fishermen so that they don't stray into the Sri Lankan or Pakistan waters and get into trouble?
नमस्कार, मैं हूं मानक गुप्ता। अगर आपको हमारा ये वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो इसे लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें, और हां, हमें सब्सक्राइब और फॉलो करना ना भूलें ताकि आप देश और दुनिया की कोई खबर मिस ना करें। तो जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ और देखते रहिए न्यूज़ 24।